In the episode Happy Krabby Birthday, SpongeBob and Squidward scramble to find a birthday present for their very greedy boss, Mr. Krabs. Which, if you really think about it, is kind of funny because I don't think Mr. Krabs would even get SpongeBob or Squidward anything for their birthday. I don't even think this dude even pays SpongeBob, and he's also like worked both him and Squidward to death many times. But anyways, this isn't an audit of Mr. Krabs as a boss. This is an Easter eggs video, and there's tons of Easter eggs in this episode, and the first few can be found when SpongeBob and Squidward head over to Lady Upturn's store, Upturns, hoping to find Mr. Krabs a gift there, with the duo eventually stumbling into this dangerous pets section of the place, and dude, there are so many really cool Easter eggs here. And I want to just give myself some credit. This episode technically didn't fully release in the US yet. It's only been released in New Zealand. So there's actually a bunch of these Easter eggs and references here that I found myself completely on my own, and I even matched them myself. As Squidward rushes through the entrance of the Dangerous Pets department, two posters can be seen right by the doorway, each featuring a familiar friend or animal from SpongeBob history. On one side is a poster of the purple sea monkey, a very specific one from the season 11 episode, The String. The dude is even depicted making the exact same like angry face that he made just before he attacked Bubble Bass back in The String. So yeah, seeing that same purple primate right here is a really cool nod to that moment. On the opposite side of the doorway, another poster showcases one of the deadly monsters from Delivery to Monster Island. It's the weird purple monster from that episode, one of the many gigantic weird creatures that SpongeBob and Plankton encountered. The inclusion of this poster is an awesome reference to a fairly recent episode, but it also hints that Upturn sells some truly outlandish pets. It may also be a wink at the animation team's own history with the series. Michelle Bryan, the animation director of Happy Krabby Birthday, this episode we're talking about, also closely worked on Delivery to Monster Island. And this is interesting as there's a ton of references to Delivery to Monster Island, in particular in this episode. Once SpongeBob and Squidward head inside, Squidward eventually gets like inked up by this giant spider right here. But just as this happens, if we look behind him, in a background tank lurks the two-headed eel monster, the same one from Delivery to Monster Island. This double-domed creature was one of the deadly monsters, another deadly monster. And here it's caged as a dangerous pet. I definitely don't want to take him home. Also, just saying, I know we can only see one of his heads here, but if we look at a side-by-side of like it from this episode and from Delivery to Monster Island, I mean, come on, it's the same character. The coloring of the white is slightly off, I guess, but it's the same character. But yeah, back to that spider, which sends Squidward flying into the next room, which leads to Squidward crashing into this large aquarium tank, which frees another familiar character, the sewer snake, specifically from the episode The Sewers of Bikini Bottom. This is the same massive green sewer-dwelling serpent that tried to devour SpongeBob and Squidward all the way back in that season 9 episode. It's crazy to think that even season 9 is kind of old now. Like, just to give you an idea of how old season 9 is, it came out when the first Avengers movie came out in 2012. So yeah, we're getting old, guys, and season 9 is clearly old enough now for it to have references in newer SpongeBob episodes. And there's actually a ton more in this room if you guys haven't already noticed, as in the same shot, we can also see several other aquarium tanks in the background, each containing more Easter eggs. Like if we go over here, we can see the woolly mollusk, which first appeared back in the episode in Security Guards during this clip right here. If we look at this aquarium right here, we can see the original snail monster, the same one from Food Con Castaways. You'll remember this creature from this clip right here. If we look over here, we can see this weird U-shaped pink deadly monster, which is of course also from Delivery to Monster Island. I really tried to like find the name for this guy, but I could not find his name, so I'm just calling him the weird pink U-shaped deadly monster. We can also find the pink squid from Delivery to Monster Island right here in this aquarium, the same one who helps SpongeBob serve food. And hey, I'm just saying again, and look, I don't deserve a cookie for this. This is what all content creators should be doing. thing, but if we go and look at the SpongeBob wiki, alright, and we go and look at episode references, you'll notice that a bunch of the ones I just talked about aren't here, and that's because I found them on my own. It may be updated, like if you go to the website right now, it may be updated, but as of this video and in the footage, in the screenshots I'm showing you, it's not there. And again, I don't deserve a cookie for that. Every content creator should be doing that. I'm just highlighting this so you guys know that I do put the work in for my content. Like, I love doing this, and I'm very lucky that I get to do it, so I'm not gonna go and be lazy about it. But anyways, if we head into the next shot, there's even more Easter eggs. If we take a close look and zoom in on the bottom left-hand corner, we can see the banana baby from Delivery to Monster Island. The same one who may look cute at first glance, alright? It's very cute, but it's actually pretty rabid. Yo, imagine some like incidental fish going to Upturn's, alright? Lady Upturn's store to buy a pet and accidentally buys the banana baby, brings it home, and almost gets his head bitten off by that thing. Like, this dangerous pet section should be closed. Why is this place open? Or just imagine if all of these aquariums got cracked open. Like, we've seen Squidward free the sewer snake, but imagine if they all got freed, Bikini Bottom would be cooked. And there's even more dangerous creatures in here, as right behind SpongeBob, we can catch a sight of Incidental 220, the round green rock bottom bus station fish. This thing is like a deep sea toad that you all probably remember from the episode Rock Bottom. In that one, SpongeBob tries to steal this dude's spot in line at the bus station, only to be scared off when the fish reveals its true form. This one's kind of weird because like Incidental 220 has always just been like a background incidental character and not a pet. Like, he's literally waiting for the bus in Rock Bottom. So the fact that somebody like captured him and put him in an aquarium in this episode's actually like kind of disturbing. This dude could have had a whole life. Like, we need to protest this shit or something, dude. Somebody free my boy Incidental 220. Like, forget Mr. Krabs' birthday present. Like, Squidward needs to free that guy. It also makes you wonder, like, what sets the difference between being like an actual citizen in Bikini Bottom and being a pet? Because they're all like fish and like sea creatures, right? But anyways, this is getting too deep. That is an interesting topic for like another video though, right? In that same shot, right beside that sea toad's tank is another glass enclosure containing two fluttering jellyfish bats. These hybrid creatures appeared in the stop motion special, The Legends of Bikini Bottom, where SpongeBob's Halloween Dream featured jellyfish that turned into bat-like creatures. Their cameo here, flopping around together in a pet store tank, is yet another cool Easter egg. Moving upward to the top left of the scene, we can spot the spiky form of the squid urchin. This weird little creature debuted in Gary's Playhouse, an episode where Gary becomes friends with an urchin.
That garbage can looks like Squidward's house.
Here's a side-by-side, and yeah, the one in this tank right here from Happy Krabby Birthday looks nearly identical to the one seen in Gary's Playhouse. But finally, if we head over to the right side, we'll see a large algae-covered monster clam. And this is actually a green variant of the big clam monster from Plankton's pet. In that episode, Plankton's attempt to find a pet led him to an algae-coated giant clam.
You know, I can't say I'm surprised.
This is another interesting one, as if we look at the two side by side, there are some differences, right? For example, the colors are very different, but this is the first time that we've seen this big clam character since Plankton's pet. So even if it's not the same one, this is clearly a very sneaky reference to that episode. And yeah, that does it for all of the pet references, but just rewinding a little bit, like I mentioned earlier on in this episode, Michelle Bryan was the animation director for this one. And like I referenced earlier, I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of the characters that they clearly created back in Delivery to Monster Island appeared in this episode. So some fun trivia for you right there. I pay attention to everything, alright? Cartoon Corey's got the eyes of a hawk. Moving on though, this episode doesn't just limit itself to like background cameos, it also throws in a few continuity references and character callbacks during the story. For example, after surviving the pet department fiasco, SpongeBob and Squidward do eventually secure a present for Mr. Krabs, leading us to the final scene, where they present the gift to Mr. Krabs at his birthday party. When this happens, Squidward suddenly lunges to take credit for the entire thing.
Me old Krabby cart?
It was all my idea.
I left this cart at Goo Lagoon a long time ago. Because I hated it!
He gives Mr. Krabs a smug grin and tries to imply that he was the one behind the whole thing, which if you've watched the episode isn't very true. More importantly though, this moment is actually a cheeky callback to the episode The Lost Mattress, in which SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward bought Mr. Krabs a new mattress. In that story, Squidward likewise attempted to steal credit for the gift.
We noticed how miserable you were on your lumpy old mattress.
So I suggested we get you a new one.
I thought it was your idea.
So like I said, this is some good continuity, seeing Squidward do pretty much the same thing years later in Happy Krabby Birthday. Dude, my mouth is so dry today that I can't even say it right. Birthday. There we go. I can pronounce words correctly, guys. Only sometimes though, as you guys have seen in the past. But finally, the episode sneaks in a cameo from a character that we haven't seen in a decade. But for this, we have to rewind all the way back to the start of the episode. As Squidward readies himself, his reflection suddenly comes to life as alternate universe Squidward. This alternate version of Squidward originally comes from the episode The Algae's Always Greener from season 3, where Plankton's wishful alternate reality featured a Squidward who worked for Plankton instead of Mr. Krabs. He's also appeared in multiple other episodes, considering the fact that he's like an alternate version. For example, the character also pops up in season 9 Squid Plus 1, but it's heavily implied that all of these different alternate versions of Squidward are the same one. And this is why the character popping up again in Happy Krabby Birthday is actually like kind of interesting. And it's also the character's first appearance in like nearly 12 years. So yeah, welcome back, dude. The episode Out of the Picture is a very dark but very funny episode that pushes Mr. Krabs' greed to like an entirely new level. Now, we're gonna get into the Easter eggs, as I know that's what you guys actually want here. And just saying, there's some really cool ones coming up. There's another reference to Rock Bottom coming up. But let's get into this plot for a second because it's freaking wild. When an art appraiser tells Mr. Krabs that Squidward's paintings would be worth a fortune if the artist were no longer with us, Mr. Krabs takes the hint and devises a really crazy scheme, trying to cash in by sending Squidward on a series of like intentionally dangerous deliveries, all with the hopes that Squidward dies so that Mr. Krabs can make more money. Bro, Mr. Krabs is like the evilest cartoon character ever. Early in this episode, Mr. Krabs' first attempt to get rid of Squidward is relatively tame. He sends Squidward on a food delivery, but here's the catch, it's to the South Pole in Antarctica. Our boy is definitely gonna need a jacket, as the episode cuts to a frozen tundra, where SpongeBob, ever the helpful friend, has accompanied Squidward on the mission. As they blast through the snow, they encounter what appears to be a snowman shaped like SpongeBob, a cute little snowbob figure. Well, this thing eventually comes to life.
SpongeBob.
Oh, hi, Squidward.
This gag is actually a direct reference to the classic SpongeBob Christmas special, Christmas Who. As in that beloved episode, like that's one of my favorite holiday episodes of SpongeBob, just saying, SpongeBob built a snowman, which also magically came to life for a brief moment.
Never trust a genie.
I'm showing both clips side by side, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. This one might have just been a coincidence. I'll always be the first to admit that, but they are very similar. At least the gag is similar. But yeah, this trip to Antarctica definitely ends up failing, and Squidward does not die, unfortunately for Mr. Krabs. So where does Mr. Krabs send Squidward next? It's a very familiar place, and that's Rock Bottom. Let's go, baby. For those of you who forgot, all of you casuals, Rock Bottom is the eerie deep sea town from SpongeBob season 1. One of my favorite episodes, just saying. Back in that one, SpongeBob got stranded after taking the wrong bus and was just trapped down there and had a very stressful time.
Even the soil looks different.
Would you mind putting me down?
Well, Out of the Picture actually marks the very first trip back to Rock Bottom since its debut back in that 1999 episode. And that's what makes it special. Like, Rock Bottom has been featured a ton since this episode. Like, if you watch lots of modern SpongeBob, Rock Bottom appears every once in a while now. But at the time, this was the first time that we had seen Rock Bottom in the modern day. Here's a cool fun fact I found while researching this one. If we go back to the original Rock Bottom episode, you guys may remember remember this vending machine right here. It's a big part of the plot of the episode, with SpongeBob trying to get some chocolate and constantly missing the bus because of it. Well, this candy machine was actually intended to appear in this episode. We know this because of this image right here released by the SpongeBob crew, which shows Squidward wandering around rock bottom with the candy machine right here in the background. It's also from a storyboard and is labeled Scene 050, which makes it clear that it was ultimately cut and was planned to be in the episode. It sucks it was cut, but don't worry, there's still a lot of cool Easter eggs in this rock bottom section, with a ton of characters from that episode also appearing. At one point, Squidward descends this ladder into rock bottom and nervously calls out, only to be answered by several creepy angler fish-like locals, all blowing raspberries at him. These include Incidental 211, the dude who literally saved SpongeBob back in the original rock bottom episode, as well as some other familiar faces. For example, there's Incidental 204, the fish that comes out of the left bathroom, while SpongeBob and Patrick are confused about which bathroom to use. There's also Incidental 222. He appeared in rock bottom as the attendant at the rock bottom bus station window. And there's also plenty of other familiar faces from rock bottom as well, including Incidental 212 and Incidental 206. A really cool twist here is that SpongeBob seems to immediately recognize all of the locals, with him even calling them his friends. All of the rock bottom incidentals also seem to remember SpongeBob, with them greeting him very positively. So that's also some really cool continuity right there, that everybody remembers each other and that SpongeBob now isn't scared of them, as if you guys remember, back in rock bottom, SpongeBob was terrified of all of these characters. So yeah, I love the continuity from the ending of rock bottom here. I'm rambling about it, but I love that stuff in SpongeBob. Moving on though, Mr. Krabs frustrated that rock bottom didn't end up killing Squidward and actually was just a pretty cool reunion. Because of this, Mr. Krabs resorts to a final plan.
Why do I need a rocket? Where is this delivery to?
Mars.
Oh, Mars. Well, Mars!
This psycho wants to launch Squidward into freaking outer space, escorting Squidward to a rocket ship. And here's another Easter egg. Kind of, not really, but let me explain. Some people think that this rocket right here bears a resemblance to Sandy's rocket from the season 1 episode, Sandy's Rocket. This is something that the SpongeBob wiki notes, but if we look at them side by side, in my opinion, they're not really that similar. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, I think that this one is a reach, and I'm like the king of reaching for Easter eggs. Like, come on. The Game Boy Advance version of the game SpongeBob Revenge of the Flying Dutchman is one of those SpongeBob games where the references aren't blink and miss it, they're the building blocks. The game's own documentation lays it out as a chaptered adventure that repeatedly lifts entire level concepts and occasionally direct footage and dialogue from specific SpongeBob episodes. And some of it is like really fun and interesting. Like, there's some references in this game that are cooler than Easter eggs in actual SpongeBob episodes, so like, let's talk about it a little bit. Our first example is this mini game right here that's based on the episode Jellyfish Jam. In the original episode, SpongeBob brings home a jellyfish and chaos spreads outward, with them literally throwing a party at one point. Well, the creators translated this into like a mini game in Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Pretty cool. Also, the chapter titled Jellyfish Fields Forever features levels based on the episodes Hooky and Club SpongeBob, two of my favorites. If you really think about it, Hooky's premise with all of the hooks kind of like is just perfect for a video game, especially a platformer. Also, some more details here. At the start of this level, Mr. Krabs is there to tell you not to mess with the hooks, which is exactly what he does in that original episode. But also, some of the hooks themselves are directly influenced and lifted from the episode Hooky. The developers actually just pretty much use this one design for a majority of the Hooky level. They'll just change the color of this one a few times, but still, it's cool that the hooks are accurate to the episode. Next up is the Club SpongeBob one, and actually, to be honest, this one isn't entirely Club SpongeBob themed. It's more like kelp forest themed if you're a true SpongeBob nerd like me, but there is some Club SpongeBob references. For example, at one point we can see this one sign right here that says Club Squidward, which is a reference to the title of, Club SpongeBob and the title card. There's also a magic conch shell in the kelp forest level as well. Moving on, another chapter in the GBA game is titled Out and About, and this chapter centers around SpongeBob doing errands around Bikini Bottom, and it sneakily incorporates the episode Valentine's Valentine's Day from season 1. Well, kind of. One of these sections features the carnival, which was exclusively featured in the episode Valentine's Day. Some people have thought that this is Glove World, but no, this isn't Glove World. This is the carnival specifically from Valentine's Day. Also, the icon for this stage seems to be a reference to the episode Life of Crime, as it features the same balloon stand as you can see in this side-by-side right here. This chapter, Out and About, also throws in a boss battle against none other than the Alaskan Bullworm, the same character from Sandy, SpongeBob, and the Worm. There's also another chapter that's named Walking the Plankton, and it features one level that is kind of a reference to pizza delivery, where at the start of the level, Mr. Krabs tells you that he needs you to deliver a pizza. We don't see the pizza, but the level is kind of similar to the scene where like SpongeBob and Squidward are walking in the desert area with the pizza, kind of similar. What 100% is a reference though is the entire rock bottom level, and there's a lot of attention to detail here, with it even featuring the exact incidentals from the episode. For example, we can see Incidental 220 right here, poofing up just like he did in his original episode. In the game, we can also see that rock bottom sign and the bus station, both from the original episode. And lastly, the final level of this game is actually based on the episode Shanghai, as you can see here. Lots of cool references in this game, which I mean is to be expected. If you're making a video game based on SpongeBob, you're gonna pull from the episodes, but these ones are especially cool because they're all from like the first 3 seasons. But yeah, let's talk about more Easter eggs. Anyways, next up is Star Robics. This is a season 3 episode of the Patrick Star Show, and I will say season 3 is like really good. Season 1 was like all right. It felt like it was made just for the purpose of a spin-off show, but season 3 is like really good, dude. But anyways, here's the first Easter egg from this episode.
35 million years to be precise.
As you can see, we get this shot right here of this time closet wheel, and there are multiple locations seen on it that are references to other locations from SpongeBob. For example, prehistoric Bikini Bottom, which we already talked about today, Randomland from SpongeBob and Randomland, I do not want to go there, Conch Street, the surface of the moon, and the future seen in SB129. Okay, one more Patrick Star Show episode. The episode is the Fun Bucket, and take a look at this.
Where would you like to go?
Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out.
Yeah, that right there is Patrick's Department of Thoughts, which was originally seen in a season 6 SpongeBob episode. The episode is titled Chum Bucket Supreme. All right, back to regular SpongeBob. I know that's what you guys really want. Superstition. And this is a season 16 episode. In this one, Friday the 13th comes to Bikini Bottom. And as you guys know, Friday the 13th is the day where everybody is supposed to get bad luck. It's a superstition, and Mr. Krabs is terrified of this.
Oh, no, 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 no. An indoor whistle brings luck's dismissal.
Yeah, Mr. Krabs needs to take a chill pill. Like, this guy is just, he's too much sometimes. Like, imagine Mr. Krabs being your boss. Not only do you have to deal with this type of nonsense, but also, this dude barely even pays SpongeBob, and as we've seen in previous episodes, SpongeBob barely gets any time off of work. This episode just came out, so I don't want to spoil it, so let's get right into the Easter egg. I'm gonna play the clip, and let's see if you guys can find it.
Ahoy, Mr. Krabs! Your morning cup of tea coming right up.
I imagine that a lot of you guys missed it, so let me explain, right? You know how it was going on before about Mr. Krabs being a lame boss? Well, if we rewind all the way back to the episode Stuck on the Roof, despite being a terrible boss over the years, we see that Mr. Krabs has this #1 boss mug right here. This thing right here, I'm highlighting it. But yeah, it's been quite some time since we've seen this mug. It only appeared in this episode Stuck on the Roof, which is a season 11 episode, so it's pretty old by now. However, the mug randomly appeared in the form of an an Easter egg in this episode we're talking about, Superstition. Here's a side-by-side, and yeah, that's a really cool Easter egg. Also, it kind of shows you how long it's been since season 11. We used to refer to SpongeBob season 11 as modern SpongeBob, but it's 10 years old now. So if you really think about it, these episodes like Stuck on the Roof are starting to become quote-unquote classics, but yeah. Our next Easter egg can be found in the episode Suction Cup Symphony. This episode is all about Squidward writing his very own symphony. Now during this scene, just as Squidward finally finishes writing his song, he has the same look on his face that he had in the episode Squid's Day Off, during the scene where he locked himself inside his house. Oh, also, it isn't necessarily an Easter egg, I guess, but the fish playing the piano in this episode is actually the same fish that SpongeBob sits next to at Reef Cinema in the episode Something Smells. As most of you know, Squidward is an artist, so it's no surprise that one of his old paintings is referenced in Season 6. The painting in particular are his 483 self-portraits first seen in the episode Gone, and they appear when SpongeBob is having tea with Squidward in the episode Not Normal. Another reference can be found as SpongeBob and Patrick are belly sliding through town. As they go off a ramped truck, Oyster Stadium can be seen for the first time in a while as they are falling. In Season 12 Swamp Mates, Patrick and Bubble Bass get lost in a murky kelp swamp during a playdate gone wrong. Now, before we get into the Easter eggs, I actually want to talk about a deleted scene for this episode. Originally, there was supposed to be a scene where Bubble Bass and Patrick were sucked on by leeches. More specifically, their butts. As his butt was getting sucked on, Bubble Bass was going to say, "Leeches, my cheeks, I'm nothing without my bubbly orbs." However, it was revealed that this scene was eventually cut. There are the images of it that I've been showing, especially this one right here, where they're literally sucking his butt. The joke isn't really inappropriate, but I can understand why it was cut considering it is a kid's show. Here's a couple more fun facts before we get into the Easter eggs for this one, because there's some interesting stuff here. For one, have you guys ever wondered how old Bubble Bass is? Well, it's confirmed in this episode during this clip right here.
So your mother has scheduled a play date for you.
I'm not 23 anymore, Mother. You'll just have to cancel it.
Well, if Bubble Bass isn't 23, then that means he's 24. So yeah, if you've ever wondered his age, yeah, he's 24. He kind of reminds me of myself, a grown man collecting collectibles and liking nerd stuff. But okay, Easter eggs, and here's the first one. If we go back years in the past to Season 3, there was the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5. And this episode's really cool because it's like an Avengers-style SpongeBob episode, where SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Sandy team up with Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy to form an Avengers-style team, with them each getting their own superhero moniker. SpongeBob is the Quickster, Sandy is Miss Appear, she can turn invisible, Squidward is Captain Magma, and Patrick is the Elastic Waistband. Together, they're the International Justice League of Super Acquaintances, and they report to the Chief, this guy right here.
Our sources last saw Evil harassing teenagers up at Makeout Reef. You know, Makeout Reef?
Now, we haven't seen this wacky character for a long time. He really only appeared in this episode. But this all changed in Swamp Mates, with Martin Olsen reprising his role and making his first appearance in like 20 plus years. It's also worth noting that if you look on his desk, there's a bunch of like fake SpongeBob toys or altered or bootleg SpongeBob toys. And this is for a reason. This is due to FCC regulations prohibiting the advertisement of merchandise related to a children's program within or during the same programming block as that program, which makes sense. It basically means that you can't advertise other SpongeBob toys or merchandise while the show is actively airing. But yeah, if we look at his desk, we can see a bootleg SpongeBob piggy bank or coin bank, a fake version of the original SpongeBob Funko Pop, and two other fake figures of unknown origin. Let's keep it moving though with more Easter eggs from this same episode. And to do that, we have to rewind back to the episode Goons on the Moon. In this episode, we were introduced to the Action Dog figure, the Teenage Action Boy figure, and the Teenage Action Girl action figures. Now, we haven't seen them since Goons on the Moon, and they seem to be pretty rare collectibles. And it seems that they're referenced in Swamp Mates, as look, right here, we can see all three figures. Really pushing the point that Bubble Bass is a major dork. If you guys could see my bedroom, I'm very similar to Bubble Bass. But let's keep it going even more, as during Bubble Bass's imaginative description, description of him capturing Man Ray. For one, it shows that Man Ray is a member of Evil, another reference to the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5. Like I said, in that episode, SpongeBob, Sandy, and the crew, they form their own Avengers Justice League style group. But so do all of the villains, with them forming Evil, which, as you guys should know, stands for every villain is lemons. I mean, come on. But there's more. For one, it also says that Man Ray is allergic to tartar sauce, and this is actually a fact. If we go back to the episode, Back to the Past, we can see that this is a fact.
Now prepare for a heaping helping of quick-drying tartar sauce.
And last but not least, it also shows that Man Ray hates the tickle belt, and this is another direct reference, this time to Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3. More specifically, this hilarious scene where Man Ray just cannot stop laughing.
Frequency rising! Belt out of control! Belt is too high! Tickling my DNA! Make it stop!
In the episode Tag Your It, it's a rainy day at Camp Coral, which means everybody can't really play outside. I mean, you could, but you're gonna get wet. It's better to avoid it. So everybody finds a way to entertain themselves indoors, specifically with a crazy game of tag. It's an alright episode, but what we're really here for, guys, you guys know what we're really here for, and it's Easter eggs. And the first one can be found during this scene, where we see Sandy flush her helmet almost like it's a toilet or a drain. If that looks familiar, it's because this is another direct reference, okay? This is a direct reference to OG SpongeBob, specifically the episode Texas. In this episode, Sandy starts missing her home state of Texas, and she gets very emotional. We get a couple scenes of her crying, and in one scene, she has to empty out her water bowl. Roll the clip. This is kind of like a deep cut reference, and it's cool to see that the creators of Camp Coral also knew to include this type of stuff. And there's more in Tag Your It. I really like this one, but if we go to the point in the episode about 13 minutes in and 40 seconds, if we pause at the right frame, you'll notice that there's a jar of mayo on Patrick's shelf. And this is most likely a reference to him asking if mayonnaise is an instrument in Band Geeks. Patrick seems to have some sort of obsession with mayo, which is also why it might be there. But yeah, who knew that Camp Coral actually had some cool Easter eggs like this? All right, let's head over to Tango Tangle. It's all about Plankton and Karen taking dance classes, and they actually are kind of good, like they kind of slap, but I mean, come on, we're here for Easter eggs.
Love the new stems, Plankton. Whoa.
This one is really cool. So who remembers the episode I Heart Dancing? Yeah, well, who remembers the outfit that SpongeBob wears in this episode? This outfit right here. Look at my boy. I want to get one of those outfits for myself. Now, as you guys just saw in the clips we showed you in Tango Tangle, this exact costume is referenced. Here's the next Easter egg from the same episode.
Oh, yes. Yeehaw!
It did not go well.
In the last scene of that montage, Plankton is actually wearing the same zipper helmet from the iconic episode The Algae's Always Greener. Really, really cool. And believe it or not, I still got another Easter egg from the same episode. Alright, so last one from Tango Tangle, and then we're heading over to another episode. Anyways, this one is really special. So back in the episode Artist Unknown, Squidward over here teaches like an art class, alright? It doesn't go as planned, but the art classes take place at this place right here, the Adult Learning Center. Now, we haven't seen this location for years, like literally since Artist Unknown, so over 20 years. But look, in Tango Tangle, it briefly can be seen in this shot right here, making for like a heartwarming, nostalgic Easter egg. Really cool, and we've got plenty more like this coming up, so let's head over to our next episode. The episode Teacher's Pests from season 11 has a ton of Easter eggs. In this boating school episode, Mr. Krabs and Plankton are forced to attend Mrs. Puff's class alongside their favorite person, SpongeBob, after a road rage incident. The premise sets up plenty of nods to past SpongeBob lore, so let's get into that, as I know that's what you guys clicked on the video for. Early on, Mrs. Puff shows an instructional boating safety video that pretty much gives tips and is a guide on how to drive a boat. And if this seems familiar to you, it's because this entire tutorial video is very similar to another video we got in another episode, Season 5's Boat Smarts. That entire episode, Boat Smarts, is about Mrs. Puff hosting a boating safety documentary that stars SpongeBob and Squidward. So it might not be a direct reference here, but they're very similar. They have the same like vignette effect on, and it's really cool. But if we keep it moving, there's even more Easter eggs. When class begins, SpongeBob excitedly introduces something special, with him explaining how students earn gold star stickers for good behavior.
Did you know that every time you do something good, Mrs. Puff gives you a star sticker?
Stickers? I'm an adult. I don't care about stickers.
If you're a true SpongeBob fan, then you know that this is a direct callback to the iconic episode, New Student Starfish, where SpongeBob was the star pupil with a whopping 74 stars to his name across the episode.
And those drinks are recorded here on the Good Noodle Board.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
In a funny bit of continuity error, here, SpongeBob has 0 stars on the board. But to be fair, this might be good continuity. It might be because it's been so many years since New Student Starfish. Maybe the board got reset. Plus, there's still boating school episodes, but we don't see SpongeBob in boating school like we used to, so maybe that's why. But nonetheless, SpongeBob has 0 stars in this episode, despite having a bunch back in New Student Starfish. But yeah, let's keep it moving. Mr. Krabs and Plankton become immediately obsessed with this reward system and begin competing by showering Mrs. Puff with fruit to earn stars.
Oh, is someone hungry? Ta-da!
Oh, a grapefruit.
How about some melon?
Mrs. Puff soon realizes that they're bribing for stickers and snaps, exclaiming, "None of you will get any stars," effectively ending the contest. But this rivalry escalates through the driving test, leading to a chaotic finale. Notably, SpongeBob himself drives perfectly fine during the test, which is actually really weird considering the fact that SpongeBob is like unteachable. As you guys know, there have been so many gags throughout the show where SpongeBob just cannot drive. And he's tried, but he's just not very good at it. But yeah, I wanted to point this out because this is a really funny inconsistency. But let's get back to the Easter eggs, as there's a ton during the mayhem. When Mrs. Puff has had enough of Mr. Krabs and Plankton's antics, she uproots an entire apple tree and whacks them with it, shouting a very specific line.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
So this one's really weird, but this line is actually a sneaky reference to the video game Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, in which protagonist Jill Valentine says the exact same phrase before defeating the final boss.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
This is a very surprising deep cut, an M-rated game quote tucked into a SpongeBob episode. But hey, it suits Mrs. Puff like pretty well considering she's a crazy character. I guess whoever wrote this episode or somebody on the art team or just somebody is a fan of Resident Evil and found a way to sneak it in. They were probably in the middle of a Resident Evil 3 playthrough and were like, I'm just gonna find a way to put this in SpongeBob. The scene even shows cartoon stars circling the dazed Plankton's head. Teacher's Pet also plays with long-term continuity, but they also made a little bit of a mistake. Weirdly enough, Mr. Krabs and Mrs. Puff act like complete strangers in this classroom setting, despite having met and fallen in love back in Krusty Love, and having dated for 16 years as of the episode Whirly Brains.
Mrs. Puff, we've been dating for 16 years now, so I was sincerely hoping that today might finally be the day that...
Yes, Eugene?
Did I steal a little kiss?
Oh!
There's no on-screen explanation for this memory lapse, and was most likely an oversight by newer writers, who maybe didn't know this bit of SpongeBob lore. But hey, I'm an old school fan and I could not help but notice. The episode is packed with visual callbacks as well. In the background is a very familiar billboard. This right here is the Barnacle Chips billboard, representing the cholesterol-free snack from the iconic episode Chocolate with Nuts, which is where this billboard made its first appearance.
Eat barnacle chips, they're delicious.
They are most certainly not delicious.
Not the way I use them.
This exact same billboard also appeared in a later episode, Burst Your Bubble.
You got on the freeway by mistake! Look out!
So its inclusion here, making a third appearance, is a clear wink from the staff to eagle-eyed viewers like myself. This isn't just like a random billboard, I want to make this clear. This is 100% an Easter egg or reference from the production team, and it's really cool. But later, when a driving mishap fuses SpongeBob, Plankton, and Mr. Krabs into one grotesque body, Plankton ends up occupying one of Mr. Krabs' eye sockets.
Mr. Plankton, you were in a horrible boat accident. It's a miracle that you're alive. However, there were some complications.
Hey, what's all the screaming up there? Forget class. Now we can be together forever.
And this might not be a direct reference, but it's a bizarre sight that's directly reminiscent of a gag in another episode. The episode being The Other Patty, where the two rival restaurateurs also combined into a single being. It's an obscure reference, but side by side, as you can see here, the scenes are very, very close. Finally though, this episode actually had a scene that didn't make it into the final airing, or even just the final version of the episode at all, a deleted scene, where during the last session, SpongeBob unknowingly runs over a line of fake pedestrian cutouts on the test track. I actually was able to find the clip that was cut because Cartoon Corey goes so hard for you guys, and I mean also shout out to the SpongeBob wiki. And yeah, this moment isn't necessarily that dark, but it seems that it was later deemed too edgy for modern SpongeBob, and thus was removed from the episode, which honestly is actually a telling sign of changing standards. In earlier seasons of SpongeBob, a throwaway gag like this definitely would have flown under the radar. Like if you think of SpongeBob seasons 1, 2, and 3, there are tons of jokes like this in those episodes. But it seems that today, Nickelodeon is playing it a little more safe. However, if we go back in time, there are still some gags from earlier SpongeBob that were too inappropriate. And this brings us to our next episode, Just One Bite from season 3. This classic episode centers on Squidward's secret love for Krabby Patties, where basically he acts like he hates them, but once he tries one and takes like the smallest bite you could humanly take, yeah, that was the smallest bite ever. But after this, Squidward becomes addicted to Krabby Patties. And this episode, Just One Bite, is actually famous amongst fans for a scene that vanished after its original airing. This is another deleted scene. The deleted scene in question occurs during Squidward's midnight break-in. In the uncut version, shown only during the Totally Twisted telly premiere back in 2001, Mr. Krabs had set up a booby trap in the Krusty Krab for intruders to prevent people from breaking in when the stores close. But instead of a regular alarm system, he does something pretty crazy. Squidward sneaks through the door only to have a bucket of gasoline tip over and drench him. And what happens next is pretty crazy considering this is a kid's show.
Hey, this isn't water. This is gas.
This over-the-top trap, a bucket of gas, and a robot arm is oddly high-tech for Mr. Krabs, just saying, who usually isn't very tech-savvy, but it certainly shows the lengths that Mr. Krabs would go to protect his secret formula. But here's where the controversy comes in. By early 2002, Nickelodeon removed this gasoline trap scene from all reruns and future releases. They just cut that chunk out of the episode pretty much, so it just jumps. And also, I want to point out, if you're from Canada, this didn't actually happen overseas or in Canada, and let me explain why. You know, I try to keep my content as accessible as possible. That way kids can watch it, and people my age, older people who grew up with the show, can also enjoy these videos. So just a heads up, this part is controversial, but it's also educational as well, I guess. As eventually, the official reason for this scene being cut came out later. The reason it was cut was in part out of sensitivity due to the episode airing shortly after 9/11, and largely due to standards and practices concerns about kids potentially imitating the dangerous gag with matches and fuel. And this isn't just speculation, writer Jay Lender confirmed that even though the scene initially passed Nickelodeon censors, the network reconsidered after the September 2001 attacks. But yeah, like I said, if you're a Canadian boy like me, that's why you remember seeing this scene still, as Canadian airings on YTV still kept the scene in. But yeah, there's a little fun fact for you guys. I know that wasn't necessarily an Easter egg, but in these videos, I'm probably going to start covering trivia and facts as well, and you gotta admit that was interesting. In the episode Terror on Tape, the Star family spend a spooky day watching a collection of haunted VHS tapes, a collection that they got from the Flying Dutchman. Again, this is really cool, another example of them kind of building up the SpongeBob world and bringing it all together. Back in the day, if you guys remember, the Flying Dutchman was like a rare character. Like, it's not like he never appeared, but he didn't appear in every episode, and he wasn't a background character. If he did appear, he was a big part of the plot. So it's cool to see that he's just like a normal character in this episode. But anyways, this episode goes on to essentially be an anthology of mini horror spoofs, with each cursed take telling a different creepy tale, starring Patrick and his family. The episode crams in homages to famous horror tropes, and even a legendary sound effect, one that only sharp-eared and sharp-eyed fans will catch. During a chaotic scene, a hapless background fish falls overboard from the ship Fancy, and take a listen to what happens next.
We're off the menu!
If you've heard that little scream before, it's because it's a very iconic sound effect, the Wilhelm scream. The scream, a classic stock sound effect used in countless films since the 1950s, is a beloved inside joke among sound editors and movie buffs. And hearing it pop in Patrick's haunted tape is a treat for fans. But yeah, its appearance in Terror on Tape is both a cheeky nod to horror cinema and a self-aware gag about the rarity of that scream in the series. But let's keep it going, there's more. Each cursed tape Patrick watches is a send-up of a different horror genre, and the episode's artists take the opportunity to reference a beloved horror anthology film. Slayground is presented in a vivid, stylized color scheme that horror fans might find familiar. In fact, the color design of the Slayground, with its lurid reds, deep blues, and comic book style shading, is directly inspired by the 1982 horror comedy film Creepshow. Creepshow, directed by George Romero and written by Stephen King, used bold comic book panel visuals and dramatic lighting to emulate old EC horror comics. And Terror on the Tape lovingly imitates that look. In Slayground, when Patrick and Squidina explore a cursed playground, the frames occasionally freeze into drawn comic panels with saturated colors and eerie lighting, just as Creepshow did. And yeah, this is a really good episode, especially if you're a fan of like Halloween and horror. I know it isn't very fitting right now. Go give the episode a watch, it's a good one. Our next Easter egg can be found in the episode The Ballad of Filthy Muck. This episode is all about Patrick going out of his way to become the most grossest and stinkiest person in all of Bikini Bottom. But more importantly, the episode also has a really cool Easter egg. If you look closely, during this scene, an ice cream sign at Glove World says glove flavor. And though this might seem like nothing, it's actually a reference to the candy glove flavor that SpongeBob literally ate in the iconic episode Rock Bottom at the location of the same name.
Ew, glove flavored.
SpongeBob has encountered a ton of interesting pets throughout the show's 13 seasons, ranging from other pet snails to a pet worm to even a pet seahorse. Well, there's a little callback to this in the episode The Clam Whisperer, as when SpongeBob is seen following some clams, 3 classic pets can be seen drinking out of a river with straws. Larry the Snail from the season 2 episode Dumped, Rex the Worm, also from the same episode Dumped, and finally, Mystery the Seahorse from the episode My Pretty Seahorse. It's cool to see all of these pets show up all in one episode for one Easter egg. Let's head over to The Dirty Bubble Bass, which has 4 Easter eggs in the one episode. Here's the first one.
We can handle this ourselves.
This is really cool. So back in Mermaid Pants, which isn't the oldest episode, but it's still already around like 10 years old. But in this episode, it's revealed that Mr. Krabs is actually a comic book fan, which I'm gonna be honest with you, is not very like accurate to his character. This dude used to serve in the Navy. When was he ever reading comics? But anyways, Mr. Krabs' superhero room that was first introduced in Mermaid Pants reappears in his office in this episode.
No!
This one goes really back to Krusty Krab training video, one of my favorite SpongeBob episodes, as in this episode we see this please wash your fins sign right here. Now we literally haven't seen this sign since that episode, but we do see it in the dirty bubble bath right here, making for a cool reference.
Jackpot! Or should I say, chum pot?
Back in the Hankering, a big plot point is this large vat of chum, and in the dirty bubble bath, it just randomly reappears right here. Here's one more from the dirty bubble bath, and then we'll head over to our next episode.
382.
Did you catch it? Well, the kitchen sign from the classic episode Welcome to the Chum Bucket reappears in that same chum vat scene. Our next episode is the Donut of Shame, a very short episode from season 5. This bite-sized episode opens with Patrick groggily waking up on SpongeBob's ceiling after what appears to have been a wild night of partying. Who knew that Patrick got so crazy, man? Like, dude was probably staying up all night eating ice cream.
Would you like another spot of tea, Ms. Nibsy? Oh, you would?
From here, Patrick notices SpongeBob still asleep, clutching a delicious-looking donut. A beautiful specimen of donuthood, as Patrick pretty much calls it. Ever impulsive, Patrick liberates the pastry from SpongeBob's hand and sneaks it home for himself. And this is where we can find some Easter eggs, or well, some references. The animators slip in a sweet nod to the show's early days. I'm gonna roll the clip and let's see if you guys can spot it.
A beautiful specimen of donuthood. A donut this nice deserves to be served on fine china.
If you didn't catch it, let me explain. Hanging on Patrick's wall is a framed picture of SpongeBob drawn in his season 1 art style. This is very important here. It's not a modern looking version of SpongeBob. At the time, this episode was from season 5, and he doesn't even look like his season 5 design. It's very clearly his season 1 design. This deliberate background detail contrasts with the episode's season 5 visuals, playfully reminding longtime fans of SpongeBob's classic look. Now, aside from that nostalgic little Easter egg, the Donut of Shame peppers in a couple of other fun touches. For example, the way Patrick awakens in this scene is a spoof of horror film tropes, mirroring a similar scene from Saw of All Things. Here is a side-by-side, and what an interesting choice for a children's cartoon. But yeah, some cool little references in this episode and some facts, but let's keep it moving and head over to a different episode. SpongeBob Season 5 isn't a bad season, but it definitely isn't the best. However, there is one Season 5 episode that I actually really enjoyed, and that's the Donut of Shame. This episode is very short. I think it's only like 4 or 5 minutes, but it's sweet and features a hilarious plot where Patrick panics due to accidentally eating SpongeBob's donut after a late night of partying. Well, this episode is referenced in the season 9 episode, The Executive Treatment. It happens very fast, but during this scene, Patrick begins to freak out about the donut before, well, being insulted by Squidward. This one you kind of have to hear it for it to really make sense, so I'm going to show a clip.
But I never wanted anything so much in my whole life! Since this morning when I wanted a donut and I ate that donut, and it was great!
A lot of that donut is still on your face.
First up is the season 12 episode, The Hankering, which has 2 really cool Easter eggs, especially if you're a big SpongeBob fan, especially if you're a fan of the older seasons. Here's the first one, and here's a little hint. This one has to do with the SpongeBob movie, the original one. Roll the footage.
Sal, I'm feeling hungry tonight. How's about another plate of chum?
That was my last plate of chum ever! I'm moving to Shell City to make it big in the pictures.
Did you guys catch it? Well, alright, Shell City, which is a location from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, is actually mentioned by Sal when he says that he moved there to become a movie star, which is really cool because the SpongeBob SquarePants movie is back in like 2004, and this is a season 12 episode. So it's awesome that the current writer still will pay homage to the older seasons and movies. And here's another Easter egg from the same episode.
Oh, come on, there's gotta be some chum in here somewhere. I lost my shoe. See, found it. Okay, bye.
Now, I'm not 100% sure about this one, alright? But the shoe that Mr. Krabs digs out of the trash seems to resemble the one that Gary wears in the iconic classic episode, Your Shoes Untied. Here's a side-by-side. On the left, we got the one that Mr. Krabs digs out in the Hankering, and here's what it's referencing on the other side. Really cool reference. I love Easter eggs. And guys, we've got crazier Easter eggs coming up, so let's head over to another episode. Our next Easter egg can be found in the season 12 episode, The Nitwitting. There are actually a few found in this episode, so let's just get right into them. As SpongeBob mopily walks through this alley, there are a bunch of references to older episodes. My favorite of the bunch is this graffiti drawing of Doodlebob referencing the iconic season 2 episode, FrankenDoodle. More importantly though, is this graffiti reading Squidward smells, as this is a reference to one of my personal favorite SpongeBob episodes, Sailor Mouth. There are a few other small references, but these two are definitely the best of the best. Leave a comment down below letting me know any that I missed. Here's one that you guys probably weren't expecting, but in the new SpongeBob movie, the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants, if we look at one of the promotional posters, we can see that SpongeBob and Patrick are mimicking the exact pose that Jack and Rose make in James Cameron's 1997 film Titanic. Similarly, said poster's tagline, "Near, far, wherever pirates are," is a parody of the line, "Near, far, wherever you are," from the song My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion, which was the main theme of Titanic. Hopefully we'll have more Easter eggs from this one once it comes out. SpongeBob Sponge Out of Water. This was the second SpongeBob movie that released, and it actually doesn't have a lot of Easter eggs. It has like 4 or 5, so we'll bang out this one quickly to wrap up the video. To start, if we go back to the episode FrankenDoodle, we were introduced to the character Doodlebob, and when SpongeBob and Patrick are first introduced to him, they end up getting trapped in this pit right here, and Doodlebob drops a very heavy object on Patrick's head, prompting him to say the following.
You okay, Patrick?
Finland!
Well, this exact thing is referenced in Sponge Out of Water, as Patrick says a very similar line.
Finland.
And last but not least, who remembers the episode Sailor Mouth? In this one, Patrick and SpongeBob come across swear words for the first time. Well, actually, SpongeBob does, and then he teaches them to Patrick.
Hello, Patrick. Lovely day we're having, isn't it?
This day is particularly lovely.
Well, at one point in Sponge Out of Water, there is a rap battle, all right? And if you listen closely, a swear word is censored with the same dolphin chirp sound effect from Sailor Mouth.
We're in no mood to hear from you.
Our next episode is called The String. And before we get into the Easter eggs, let's do a little plot summary. This episode begins with SpongeBob cooking Krabby Patties until he sees a loose thread on Squidward's shirt. SpongeBob decides to pull the string and ends up pulling it for so long that it leaves Squidward naked.
Someone order a rusty cab?
I like string.
Congratulations.
And this is where the episode pretty much goes from here. SpongeBob continues unraveling things until every Bikini Bottomite is pretty much annoyed, especially Squidward, who always ends up having his clothes unraveled by the string. This all goes on until the end of the episode, where Patrick eventually uses the string as dental floss, thus ending the episode. But just as the episode ends, there's a huge Easter egg. If we go back to the first SpongeBob SquarePants movie, there's this fisherman right here, and we haven't seen him since that movie, but at the very end of the string, he makes his first reappearance in a long time. The next Easter egg on this list comes from the season 5 episode, To Love a Patty. This episode focuses on SpongeBob falling in love with a Krabby Patty. SpongeBob is so in love with this Krabby Patty that he saves the burger from being eaten. But take a look at the person who is about to eat the Krabby Patty. Does he look familiar to you? Well, if you're a true SpongeBob veteran, he should. This is the same fish who briefly appears in the episodes Shanghai and Krabbyland. We've seen plenty of board games in the SpongeBob universe, but one of my favorites is the Flying Dutchman's Treasure Hunt from the season 1 episode, Arg. This game nearly drives Mr. Krabs insane, with him eventually taking things way too seriously and using the game's map for a treasure hunt to To be fair, Mr. Krabs' plan does actually work, and they eventually find the treasure by the end of the episode, despite using a map from a board game. But this was the last we'd see of the board game for a little while. That was until the season 6 episode, Toy Store of Doom, as at one point, SpongeBob takes the Flying Dutchman's Treasure Hunt board game out of a chest and asks Patrick if he wants to play it, only for him to decline it like everything else SpongeBob suggests. Pretty cool.
Buried treasure board game?
In the episode we were introduced to Patar, SpongeGar, and Squog, the prehistoric counterparts to SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward. These three are quite the trio, and we hadn't really seen them since season 3. Well, that is, until the season 5 episode, Atlantis SquarePantis. In this episode, SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs, oh, and Sandy, journey to Atlantis, with Plankton secretly attending as well. And the episode turns into a bit of a musical, with everyone performing a song at one point. Now, if we pay attention during Squidward's song, we can find a few familiar characters, as SpongeGar, along with Patar and Squog, make a small little cameo. Pretty cool, huh? Let's talk about the episode Unreal Estate next. It's from season 10. In this one, Squidward tricks SpongeBob into thinking his pineapple house is dangerous to live in, hoping SpongeBob will move away. Well, as SpongeBob daydreams about new homes, the episode pays homage to SpongeBob's history in many subtle ways. Right from the title card, Unreal Estate telegraphs a hidden gag, with its background art being pretty much the same as another episode's background art, Sentimental Sponge. Both cards share a bold, colorful geometric pattern. The only difference is the color, with it being pink in Unreal Estate and yellow or orange in Sentimental Sponge. And while it's possible that they may have just reused the asset, SpongeBob writers and producers and artists in the past have done this, where they use a similar piece of art in the title card to pay homage to an older episode. I am rambling though, and this one definitely sounds like a little bit of a reach, but let's head over to more interesting Easter eggs. Our next Easter egg can be found in the season 13 episode Upturned Girls, an episode we've admittedly talked about a lot recently, but only because the episode is full of spicy Easter eggs. Now, the Easter egg in question has to do with this obscure SpongeBob villain, the Atomic Flounder. This supervillain was formerly an enemy of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, and made his first appearance in the season 1 episode, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 2, as an old retired version of himself that gets attacked by SpongeBob. Now, since season 1, the character has barely been seen, let alone mentioned. That is, until the episode Upturned Girls, as when Pearl and Narlene first arrive at Upturns, the exact same old retired version of the Atomic Flounder makes his first appearance in 20 plus years, making for a really cool little reference.
If I weren't retired, I'd... Do that!
So this next one can be found in the season 13 episode Uptown Girls, and is based around two characters first introduced in Camp Coral. These two are Ro and Rhea, Lady Upturn's two cabin roommates from, well, Camp Coral. Well, the episode Uptown Girls gives us a little update on what happened to both characters after Camp Coral, via various posters in Lady Upturn's shop, with Ro becoming a clothing model based on this poster, and Rhea becoming the face of a perfume company based on this other poster. Our next Easter egg can be found in the episode Whelk Attack, and it's pretty cool as it references one of my favorite older SpongeBob episodes, Suds. In this episode, a herd of large sea whelks invade Bikini Bottom, causing all sorts of problems. Why are they invading, you may ask? Well, it turns out that the whelks are sick, as explained by Sandy near the end of the episode. Now, during this scene, SpongeBob compares the whelks' sickness to Suds, the same illness SpongeBob had to deal with all the way back in the season 1 episode titled, well, Suds.
I know just what to do. After all, I've had the Suds. I just have to absorb the whelk snot, and they'll return to normal.
Season 12 has some hit or miss episodes. Most of them are pretty good, and one of the good ones is Who Are Zoo, an episode where SpongeBob and Patrick create their own zoo made entirely out of bubbles. Pretty cool, I wish I could do that. This episode has 2 Easter eggs. Let's get right into it. Here's the first one. Keep those eyes peeled so it really makes sense.
fine.
Now here's the thing for this one, if you got it, then you've watched a lot of SpongeBob, as it's a very specific reference that you'll only get if you watched the classic episode, The Thing. In this episode, Squidward gets covered in cement, and then everyone starts to think that he's some sort of creature. Of course, it's just Squidward covered in cement, but it gets so bad that the SWAT team comes in because of Patrick, and they take him to the zoo. More importantly though, they keep them in this new area known as the Species Unknown area, since they don't know what Squidward is. Well, this Species Unknown area, which only ever appeared in The Thing, can actually be seen in this episode in the background over here, which is an awesome reference. And this one is a clear reference. Like, the Species Unknown area, habitat area in the zoo has not been there since The Thing, so I love this one. Really cool reference. And there's another one that's really gonna warm your heart if you're an old school SpongeBob fan. Look at this.
Hello, folks. Please leave all your sharp objects at the gate. Okay, Grandpa, spread them.
Yeah, I love this one too. A pencil that resembles the magic pencil from the FrankenDoodle episode. You know, the episode with Doodlebop. Here's a quick clip.
Aw, look at him. Ain't he a doll? Ready for action!
Quack! Quack!
And the episode Doodle Dimension. Here's another quick clip.
SpongeBob!
Patrick, I'm right here. Aw, isn't he cute?
Yeah, that pencil is among the many items seen in the live-action close-up of Old Man Walker's box over here, which is awesome. I love FrankenDoodle. They need to bring Doodlebop back again. Actually, wait, they did in season 14. I almost forgot. Actually, as a matter of fact, let's cover that episode. It has a really cool Easter egg in it. Now, I'm gonna get into the Easter eggs, but I really want you guys to take a look at some of these hilarious moments from this episode. It's a really good one, and then we'll get right into the Easter eggs.
Hey, my imagination box. I wonder if it still works. Oh boy, it's time for imagination.
Dude, season 14 so far has been pretty tight. I'm into it. You can see there's improvements being made. There's still some stinky episodes, but this one was a good one with lots of references. Here's the first one. You've probably seen some of them in the funny moments compilation we just did, but here are these awesome Easter eggs I was talking about.
Get off my sand! What's happening?
Inside my imagination box. Squidward must be lost.
Lost in his own
Imagination.
So this one's simple. Pretty much, this entire episode is a sequel to the iconic episode Idiot Box. I mean, as you guys just saw, SpongeBob even does his iconic imagination animation, which is really cool. Also, here's a really fun one right here. As we learn in this episode, Squidward's imagination is the most active out of everyone's, which is why he's able to re-energize the box. By the way, we learn in this episode that the magic-like box is powered by people's imagination. And Squidward's imagination is so powerful he can recharge the thing. And this seems to directly tie in with the original episode, as if you think about it, in the end, Squidward ended up having the most fun in the box, and then he's taken away by a garbage dump, you know, in the original episode. But Squidward has the most fun with it, so it makes sense that his imagination would be the strongest. I'm rambling. There's another reference in this episode. Roll the footage.
Finally, a place with culture.
So back in the episode Mind the Gap, we were introduced to the Jazz Club, all right? And what's really important here is I want you to take a look at all of the patrons inside of it from the original episode Mind the Gap. Take a look at everybody inside, as some of these exact same people appear multiple seasons later in Squidward Box when this episode returns to the Jazz Club. So really fun reference right here. Like, here's a side-by-side of some of the characters appearing. Love references like this. And let's keep it moving. We've got more Easter eggs coming up, baby, let's go. The Patrick Star Show spinoff is essentially a mini sketch comedy showcase, but it doesn't skimp out on SpongeBob references, Easter eggs, and meta humor. In Late for Breakfast, Patrick misses his family's breakfast and scrambles to fill his belly and airtime by hosting a cooking segment on his makeshift variety show.
Cook at 1,000 degrees for 1 second. It's ready!
Now, this whole sequence is a goldmine of Easter eggs and sly nods. As Patrick raids the house for ingredients, he tosses just about anything into his casserole, if that's what you want to call it, including a pair of delicious, I'm sure they would taste great, right? These right here, dirty sneakers. Longtime SpongeBob fans will recognize those beat up black high top sneakers, as they look identical to the shoes Plankton gave SpongeBob as part of his elaborate plan 20 years ago, like 20 plus years ago. Welcome to the Chum Bucket.
Wow!
So now do you have everything you need to make some Krabby Patties?
Well...
So seeing them here is really, really cool. Now, I will say this is most likely just a fun prop reuse by the artists, but it could also have been an intentional Easter egg. And if so, you know, props to the team, because this is a cool one. But if we keep it moving, as Patrick's chaotic cooking continues, with him adding stinky socks and used napkins, delicious, his little sister Squidina encourages him to work with what he's got. Eventually, Patrick cooks the monstrosity at 1000 degrees for 1 second. But more importantly, the real Easter eggs come when the casserole is done, and Patrick's show rules its credit sequence. In universe, these are fake vanity credits for Patrick's imaginary production crew. Like, as you guys know, a big element of the Patrick Star Show is that it's like a show within a show. But back to the point, every name on this scrolling fake credits right here is a pun on a real SpongeBob production staff member. For example, the credits list Mark C. I'm not gonna try and say his last name, but this is actually a spoof of a real person, executive producer Mark C. And I'm not gonna try and say his last name again, but here's both names side by side, and you can see this is intentional. There's also Vincent Walla, clearly referencing SpongeBob veteran Vincent Waller. Andy Badman stands in for writer Andrew Goodman. That one's actually funny. Louis K. Shire for writer Look Brookshire. And there's a couple of more, but you guys get the point. Another interesting Easter egg from this episode is a specific line that Patrick sings. Take a look at this clip and it might be familiar to you guys. Like I said, you may have heard that before, and it's because this is like a classic gag for Patrick. He said the same line back in the episode Shanghai from season 3, right here. And he also says a similar thing in the episode You Don't Know Sponge. If we fast forward to this scene right here, and I'll play the clip. One of my favorite SpongeBob episodes is season 3's Just One Bite. In this episode, Squidward tastes his very first Krabby Patty, and though he lies and claims to hate them at first, by the end of the episode, we find out the truth. SpongeBob reveals that there is a patty vault hidden in the Krusty Krab that contains hundreds of Krabby Patties. And in the ending scene, we see Squidward break into this place to get his fix. Now, aside from this episode, we haven't really seen the patty vault since. However, it does appear in the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 6 in the form of an Easter egg. It's only on screen for a short amount of time, but it can be found during this scene. Something absolutely terrible happens in the season 4 episode, All That Glitters. SpongeBob breaks his favorite spatula, and as you can imagine, this really ruins SpongeBob's day. Don't worry though, at the very end of the episode, we get this hilarious scene of SpongeBob being reunited with his old friend, and the episode ends with everything back to normal. Now, the Easter egg in question can be found during this scene, and has to do with everyone's favorite Incidental Fred. If you're a true SpongeBob fan, you'll know that this isn't the first time we've seen Fred in this outfit, as it's actually a reference to the outfit he wears in the classic season 3 episode, One Krabs Trash. Our next Easter egg can be found in the episode Bottle Burglars, and it references the iconic season 2 episode FrankenDoodle. In this episode, SpongeBob and Squidward accidentally let Plankton slip away with the coveted Krabby Patty secret formula. So as you can imagine, the episode is primarily focused on the not so dynamic duo trying to retrieve it. it? Well, spoiler alert, they do, and the episode has a happy ending. But if we watch closely, when Squidward turns on the Krusty Krab security footage, a drawing of Doodle Bob can be seen on the bottom of the table, referencing both FrankenDoodle and Doodle Dimension. In the season 2 episode, Survival of the Idiots, SpongeBob and Patrick overhear a dream Sandy has about fighting two very popular Western criminals, Dirty Dan and Pinhead Larry, and eventually take on both personas as they play cowboys and bandits.
All right, Pinhead, your time is up.
Who you calling Pinhead?
Now this eventually results in both Pinhead Larry and Dirty Dan getting their butts absolutely handed to them, like they get their butts kicked and presumably killed, thus giving us these two gravestones with the names Pinhead Larry and Dirty Dan on them. Well, these gravestones are referenced in the episode Shopping List, as both can be seen during this scene, thus making for a heartwarming little Easter egg for all of the longtime fans like myself. Next up, we have Dr. Smart Science.
We now return to one of my favorite scientific topics, astronomy.
Okay, so back before your mom and sister started obsessing over astrology, Squidward over here was a big fan of astrology, like my boy was a crystal girly, as back in 2000 and 2001, there was this series of shorts called Astrology with Squidward that would air on Nickelodeon during the commercial breaks in between shows. Okay, so the history lesson is done now. Now we can break down the Easter egg, as despite not being referenced or talked about for years, Astrology with Squidward was actually referenced in this episode, Dr. Smart Science. As look, Patrick has a wheel with various SpongeBob characters representing the astrology signs. And to really show that this one is 100% a reference, some of the signs, for example Leo, I'm doing a side by side, are even the same. But let's get back to something that a lot of you guys will actually catch, alright? Because like I said, this one was kind of a deep cut. Here's Easter egg number 2.
How does that work?
You guys know I love classic references, and that's exactly what this one is, as back in Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4, a big plot element is that Mermaid Man leaves this belt right here behind. It's his super belt. It has all these super abilities. SpongeBob plays with it and ends up shrinking Squidward down. And when he's trying to figure out how he can reverse this and get poor Squidward back to regular size, Patrick over here, being, you know, a genius, suggests that he flips the M to a W to put it in Wumbo mode. Yeah, well, Wumbo mode is somewhat referenced in Dr. Smart Science, as in the Patrick's How Does That Work intro, we can see this text right here saying Wumboology or Wumbology, making a clear nod or reference to what I was just mentioning from Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4. So I guess this next one is less of an Easter egg and more of a theory. In the episode Food Con Castaways, SpongeBob and the gang find themselves lost in a random forest. Now throughout the episode, the forest isn't given an actual name, but a lot of people online speculate that this could be Kelp Forest, the same forest from the iconic Season 3 episode Club SpongeBob. We don't know for sure, but if you need some more proof, it seems the title card for Food Con Castaways is taken from a background scene of Club SpongeBob. So this next one is a bit of a deep cut, so get ready, as what the episode references is very subtle. I didn't even realize it at first. In the episode Ghost Host, the Flying Dutchman realizes that he's lost his scary mojo. So to try and sharpen his skills, he tries to scare both SpongeBob and Squidward. It doesn't go very well, but during one of his attempts to scare SpongeBob, he transforms into this big red bug thing. And honestly, since this episode, we haven't really seen it since, but it seems that this exact transformation is referenced in the episode Ink Lemonade, as during this scene, where Squidward first enters the creepy nursery, there is a picture of this exact same big red bug that the Flying Dutchman turned into on the wall, thus making for, like I said, a really deep cut in terms of Easter eggs. Like, the Flying Dutchman transforms 50 plus times in Ghost Host, so it's interesting that they chose this one to reference in particular. Next up, we've got the episode Bassword. Here's Easter egg number 1.
Old Man Jenkins has a plane!
Oh yeah.
This one is so cool. So if we go back to, I believe, season 3, we have the episode, The Sponge Who Could Fly. And in this episode, SpongeBob wants to fly like the jellyfish. And when his pants get like inflated, he actually like kind of flies. Now, there's a running gag in this episode about old Man Jenkins and his plane, as you guys seen in the clips, all right? Well, this exact plane from The Sponge Who Could Fly reappears in Bassword.
Get some city, here I come.
This one's like interesting, but the Bikini Bottom station has the exact same design it had back in the Great Patty Cap. Another cool Easter egg can be found in the episode Biddy Sitting. Well, to be honest with you guys, the entire second half of the episode is essentially an Easter egg, as it features two classic characters. In the episode Chocolate with Nuts, SpongeBob goes door to door with Patrick, lying to people about their magic chocolate bars, and eventually come across this dynamic duo, Incidental 87, aka Mary, and her mother. Well, Mary has shown up a few times over the years since her debut, but her mother has been absent ever since Chocolate with Nuts. That is, until a few years ago, as she plays a major role in the episode Biddy Sitting, and it is a major nostalgia trip. Our next set of Easter eggs, or well, Easter egg, there's only one, can be found in the episode Biscuit Ballyho. In this one, Sandy's Science Scouts, these characters right here, try to raise money for a trip to Mars by selling these biscuit boxes around town. Well, Mr. Krabs, being a greedy crab, decides to get in on the action himself, stealing Sandy's idea.
Crusty doodles. Blech. These are just stale Krabby Patty buns.
Yeah, Mr. Krabs sucks, and this whole thing leads to like a town-wide war with both troops fighting to get sales. It's a fun, wild episode that I definitely recommend, but we're not here for that, we're here for Easter eggs, and there's one I want to talk about. I'm gonna roll the clip and then I'll explain it after. Roll the footage.
All right, Science Scouts, listen up. This here business is serious as a rattlesnake bite. So let's make sure we don't mess it up. If we earn enough money, we can finally afford that trip to Mars!
This is a very obscure reference, but some of the writing that Sandy uses in her blackboard in the beginning of the episode are references to one of my favorite episodes, SpongeBob in Randomland. Particularly this K equals AZ equation and 1220, which is the exact production code for the episode SpongeBob in Randomland, which is how we know for sure that this is a reference. And let's keep it rolling. I've got another episode coming up after this with more Easter eggs. Next up, we've got Blood is Thicker Than Grease, which only has one Easter egg, but it's really, really cool. Roll that clip, guys, and here's a hint. It has to do with Plankton's family.
There's room for the whole Plankton clan!
Hello.
Like I said, I really like this one. So, back in Plankton's army, Plankton decides that he needs to team up with his family to take down Mr. Krabs. And before he actually meets them and eventually realizes that they're a bunch of rednecks, there's this scene where he imagines what they could look like. We get all sorts of different designs of Plankton's imaginary ancestors. And guess what? In Blood is Thicker Than Grease, during the scene we already showed you guys, look, several of Plankton's family members that he imagined appear in this scene. Plankton has an interesting imagination. But yeah, really cool Easter egg, guys, and let's keep it rolling to another episode. Next up, we've got the episode Chum Bucket List. And in this episode, there's the World of Friendship song. Now, throughout this song, there are a ton of Easter eggs. I'm gonna play a couple clips from the song, and then we'll start breaking down all of them. Try and see if you guys can spot any of the Easter eggs before I actually reveal them. Really cool. So during this shot right here of SpongeBob and Patrick's designs were actually storyboarded to channel the style of the first ever episode of SpongeBob. So they were actually drawn in a way where they look like season 1 versions of them. And we've got another one from this episode that happens after the song or after the montage. Roll the footage. Friendship. Did you guys catch it? So after the song, this explosion is played, and it might seem familiar because it's actually a reference to 3 older episodes. This exact same explosion clip was shown in Dying for Pie. It was then also used in The Krusty Plate, Frozen Face Off, and Neptune's Ball. And we still ain't done yet, gang. We've got more Easter eggs. Let's head over to another episode. Our next Easter egg can be found in the episode Boating Buddies. In this episode, instead of a typical SpongeBob boating school episode, is all about Squidward attending boating school after getting a ticket. As you can imagine, this was all SpongeBob's fault, of course. But luckily for him, SpongeBob decides to help out, eventually leading us to this scene where Squidward does his driving exam. For a few frames, the rare incidental character Granny appears, thus making her first appearance since her debut episode, Have You Seen This Snail? Our next Easter egg can be found in the episode Potato Puff, but we need to go back for it to actually make any sense. Mrs. Puff, as always, is stressed out and defeated after yet another failed driving lesson with SpongeBob. So she decides to just give him a license anyways so that she doesn't have to deal with him anymore.
Mrs. Puff,
Thank you, SpongeBob. Congratulations. Have a nice life.
Now when she gets home, if you look on the wall, there's a portrait of the exact frame on screen. This is known as a recursive image, and it's actually referenced in the opening of the season 13 episode Potato Puff. As look, there's a portrait of the exact frame going on in the episode on Mrs. Puff's wall yet again. The episode Bunny Hunt is a later season gem loaded with background Easter eggs and continuity nods, all wrapped in a silly plot about a wild sea bunny infestation. The episode finds Squidward's garden overrun by a cute but destructive sea bunny named Bunny Wunny, leading to ever-escalating chaos, like this bunny is a troublemaker. But let's get into the Easter eggs, as longtime viewers will recognize Squidward's backyard setting from an earlier episode. At the climax, dozens of bunnies swarm and even pop out of a wooden shed behind Squidward's house. And it might just seem like some random shed, but that shed is a blink and you'll miss it reference to another episode, The Curse of Bikini Bottom from season 7. In that episode, a shed randomly appeared in Squidward's yard for a gag.
Let's go look for something to do in Old Man Squidward's shed!
But it isn't actually a part of Squidward's actual house layout. If we look at other episodes and we see his backyard, the shed isn't there. So its reappearance here years later is a delightful continuity nod for fans who remember the one-off structure. The interiors of SpongeBob's Pineapple in this episode are also a treasure trove of callbacks. When SpongeBob temporarily adopts the Sea Bunny, we see his living room shelves decorated with familiar mementos. Notably, this ball right here, which is Gary's toy ball, which is actually from an episode, Gary's New Toy.
Okay, that's just creepy. Gary, I think you need to spend some time away from this ball. This isn't helping your case.
It's right here on the shelf, making for a cool reference. Here's a side-by-side. And nearby is SpongeBob's ukulele from the classic Fun Song and the episode of the same name. SpongeBob even has a framed photo of a baby Gary the Snail. However, this little touch actually created a little bit of a continuity puzzle. I mean, how would SpongeBob have a baby picture of Gary if, according to the new canon, he met Gary as a kid at Camp Coral? We've talked about this before, but let me clarify, as Nickelodeon has ultimately confirmed that Camp Coral exists in an alternate timeline from the main series. In other words, the main SpongeBob from the core SpongeBob universe likely raised Gary from a young age, hence the baby photo here, whereas Camp Coral is a separate take on their origin. It's interesting stuff, but just wanted to clarify it. But let's keep it moving because there's a lot of references in this episode. Even if we pop over to Squidward's house, as hanging on his wall is a painting that spoofs another famous painting called The Scream, created by Edvard Munch. I hope I said it correctly. I'm sorry, Edvard Munch, if I said your name wrong. Just this time, as you guys can see, it has a more Squidward touch to it. Here's a side-by-side. Even more surprising, though, is the cameo of an extremely obscure character. This human supervillain with a clam on his head appeared once in the very first Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode, back in 1999.
Oh no! A raging whirlpool!
But after an 18-year absence, he actually shows up again in this episode, on a comic book cover that SpongeBob shields from Bunny Wunny's destruction. It's a blink and you'll miss it detail, but a really cool one that's also pretty rewarding to fans that know their SpongeBob lore. I mean, clearly some of the SpongeBob staff are just as obsessed with SpongeBob lore as I am, as Clam Head Candy Cat's inclusion, however brief, acknowledges the depth of the Mermaid Man universe, and is a treat for any of the nerds out there that remember all of the different villains from SpongeBob. But Bunny Hunt doesn't just reference SpongeBob's past, it throws in a bit of real-world culture too. Squidward, ever the sophisticated squid, drops a couple of French phrases during this episode, and if you were ever wondering what he said, I got you covered. At one point he exclaims when speaking to a wooden dummy, a mild old-fashioned French curse equivalent to the word damn it. Later, during a melodramatic funeral for his garden, Squidward sighs, "C'est la vie," meaning that's life in French. Some more fun facts for you guys right there. And I guess it's canon that Squidward can speak French, which is kind of fitting to his character. It's also kind of a smart way to sneak in a swear. Damn it is kind of like an edgy word, and you don't see a lot of characters from kid shows saying it, so it being in French was a way for Nickelodeon to sneak it in. At least that's my theory. A game theory. And let's head over to another episode. This next one's pretty neat. Now, I don't use the word neat often, but this one's more of like a fun fact. It's still an Easter egg, but you guys will really like this one. In the episode Buried in Time, we get a real-life city imagined by Patrick, all right? Take a look at the clip.
What do you think Bikini Bottom will be like in the future?
Wow! Special drinking fountains for short people!
I dream of a town with the perfect blend of commerce and irrigation. Not to mention the breathtaking views.
Now, fun fact, it turns out this is a real place. It appears to be Burbank, California, the home and land of Nickelodeon Animation Studios. So, like I said, fun little fact. Let's keep it moving and get back to the real Easter eggs. Let's switch up the flow on this next one and talk about Camp Coral, the SpongeBob spinoff that is completely overhated, guys. Like, the show is not that bad. It's for kids. It's meant to be like a SpongeBob spinoff for kids, but I'll see grown adult men like me like complaining about the show. And it's okay. We can agree to disagree. If you don't like Camp Coral, it's fine. Don't hate me just because I don't hate it. But anyways, we're gonna talk about Camp Coral, more specifically the episode Cabin of Curiosities. As Easter eggs aren't just limited to regular SpongeBob, they're also in the spin-offs as well. In Cabin of Curiosities, young SpongeBob and Patrick are trying to earn a friendship badge in venture. You hungry, buddy? Good boy. My dog decided to take a bite of his food while I was doing voiceover, and I love him for it. He's looking at me right now. Here's a photo of him. See, that's how you know I'm really not an AI channel, as who would stop in the middle of a video to shout out their dog? And that's not an AI dog. Okay? So yeah, please subscribe. Anyways, though, this has been the longest intro ever, but basically in this episode, SpongeBob and Patrick end up like veering off into the eerie woods at night by accident and end up inside this mysterious cabin where they meet a crew of creepy, cute characters. There's a vampire kid and other monster-themed campers who only come out after dark.
That is my web. I spun it this morning.
Oh, nice work! Do you do free alterations?
This lead little vampire introduces himself as Kid Furatsu, a name that immediately rang a bell for me because I love SpongeBob. For those who don't know, this is a playful spin on Nosferatu, the classic horror vampire who made an unforgettable cameo in the SpongeBob episode Graveyard Shift.
Nosferatu!
In that infamous season 2 scene, a live-action Nosferatu flickered the lights of the Krusty Krab, surprising everyone and becoming a long-time gag within the show. In the SpongeBob SquarePantis prequel, Camp Coral, Nosferatu's legacy lives on as we meet a kid version of Nosferatu, or maybe a distant relative. Nonetheless, Nosferatu appearing in Camp Coral is a cool Easter egg here. He's pretty much like a random SpongeBob character, so the fact that the writers and art team remembered to include him here is awesome. And there's actually another thing I want to discuss when it comes to this episode. As it continues, the Monster Cabin kids spend the night scaring and then befriending SpongeBob and Patrick, showing them a frightful fun time until dawn approaches. In a scene that mirrors vampire lore, Kid Ferrazzo and his creepy cabin mates disintegrate when the first rays of sunlight hit them. They literally crumble into dust as the sun rises, much to SpongeBob and Patrick's shock. Here's the issue. This dramatic exit seems to imply the monster kids are creatures of the night only. However, dedicated viewers of Camp Coral noticed a funny continuity hiccup. These very same characters later appear in broad daylight in like other Camp Coral episodes. The production team definitely made a little bit of a mistake here, but fortunately that mistake is interesting, thus turning it into a fun fact. And I've got more fun facts, trivia, and Easter eggs to come, so let's keep it rolling. Our next episode is Cabin of Curiosities. On a dark and stormy night at Camp Coral, SpongeBob and Patrick stumble upon a creepy cabin filled with even creepier kid campers. In one of them is a familiar fiend from SpongeBob's past, or I guess his future, albeit in a pint-sized form. Cabin of Curiosities plays out like a kid-friendly horror homage, as our heroes meet a gang of monster kids in the woods.
You are either very brave
or very foolish to venture into this dark domain.
Foolish! Definitely foolish!
Jake?
Yes, we are. My name is Predatori. That is my web. I spun it this morning.
The star of these odd campers is Kid Ferrazzo, who, as his punny name definitely implies, is the child version of the iconic SpongeBob character and just classic horror character in general, Nosferatu. It's crazy that Nosferatu is like literally like a canon SpongeBob character. Like, he's appeared on screen many times in the show. I mean, I guess this one technically isn't actually an Easter egg if Nosferatu is a regular character now. Camp Coral is a prequel show and shows a lot of the characters' younger forms, so I guess it makes sense that we would see Nosferatu's kid form, but I do think that this overall is a cool little homage at the very least. Our next episode is Call the Cops from season 11. This episode flips the script by putting SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs on the other side of the law. Plankton actually gets himself arrested after yet another failed formula theft, and the secret formula is locked up at the Bikini Bottom police station as evidence. To retrieve it, Mr. Krabs convinces SpongeBob to go undercover as police officers and infiltrate the station, a recipe for hilarious antics.
Have you got a license to sell these cookies?
Officer SquarePants, I don't think we ought to.
Let me handle this, Officer Mr. Krabs.
I don't have a license.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
As soon as they step into the station lobby, the background art delivers clever gags. For one, there's a framed photo of a donut on the wall, poking fun at the classic trope that cops love donuts, but right beside that is a wanted poster bearing a very familiar face, that of the Tattletale Strangler. I love references like this. Fans will remember this villain from SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, a legendary iconic episode, and apparently the Bikini Bottom PD is still on the lookout for him. The fact that his wanted poster appears here is a continuity nod, as if the events of that episode have been filed in police records. And the station's back room holds another Easter egg for the Observant. Pinned up on the wall is a wanted poster for another iconic SpongeBob villain. Roll the clip and I'll let you guys catch it.
You can interrogate the suspect.
I don't know how to interrogate.
Then just ask questions.
Come on, you guys gotta know this one. That's Dennis, the fearsome hitman from the original 2004 SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Name's Dennis. I've been hired to exterminate you.
Dennis's rugged mug is instantly recognizable, connecting the series to the first movie storyline even more. These background posters subtly expand the world building, implying that all of these notorious baddies share the same criminal universe. Really cool stuff. This next episode finally brought Gary the Snail to Camp Coral, and with him comes a barrel of references spanning the SpongeBob universe. In our next episode, Camper Gary, SpongeBob discovers his pet snail has stowed away at camp. Rather than send Gary home, SpongeBob disguises him as a new camper to keep him hidden from the staff, particularly from Mrs. Puff, who turns out to hate snails, which is kind of weird because she literally has a snail in the episode The Sponge Who Can Fly. Like, SpongeBob helps save her snail, so this is a little bit of a continuity error, but anyways, the premise of this episode alone parallels a classic SpongeBob plot. It's essentially the summer camp equivalent of My Pretty Seahorse, where SpongeBob hid his pet seahorse mystery at the Krusty Krab.
SpongeBob, thanks for finally getting rid of that horse.
You're welcome, Mr. Krabs. It worked, girl. I'll just keep you back here until Patrick finishes that stable I asked him to build.
Years later, in Camper Gary, we see SpongeBob do something very similar to that scene from My Pretty Seahorse. As a matter of fact, the entire plot of this episode is very similar, which a lot of people think is a reference. Here's another Easter egg though. Of course, Gary eventually runs loose, and Mrs. Puff goes into full monster hunter mode, chasing the beast snail haunting the camp. She doesn't even realize that it's Gary and actually thinks that there's a real threat here. But in a very funny twist, during the chaos, Mrs. Puff offhandedly mentions the following line, and if you listen closely, this is a reference.
Mom always said I'd go out like this. Oh well, better than being dragged back to prison.
As you heard right there, Mrs. Puff refers to being dragged back to prison. And this is a reference to the fact that Mrs. Puff has gone to prison many times in original SpongeBob. For example, in No Free Ride, she goes to jail. So it's very in character that even years before original SpongeBob in the prequel show, she had already been to jail. It seems to be a running theme in her life. There are some more Easter eggs in this episode, and I'm gonna rapid fire them. They're really cool. For one, if you look closely in SpongeBob's bunk, there's this poster right here of Mermaid Man on the wall. We also see a jar of mayonnaise amongst SpongeBob and Patrick's belongings, perhaps a wink at the famous "is mayonnaise an instrument" joke, since what camper packs mayo for a trip? Only Patrick would do that, I mean, come on. And if you look closely right here, we can find canned bread again. We've talked about this in a previous Easter egg video, and if you guys remember back in the episode Squidville, okay, where Squidward moves to go and live in like a town where it's all people exactly like him, he finds one of his favorite things that he's always been looking for.
Canned bread! This town is great!
So yeah, this is a really cool Easter egg and shows that whoever wrote this episode knows their lore. This is like a deep cut of a reference, canned bread, really cool. Let's keep it moving though. In the episode, Captain Pipsqueak, Plankton comes up with the ultimate plan to join the League of Evil so that he can take over the world and of course, steal the Krabby Patty secret formula. Well, in order to do this, Plankton has to do an addition, and during this scene, we see numerous villains from previous episodes show up for an addition as well, and boy oh boy does it make for an epic scene full of references. First up is Dennis from the first SpongeBob movie. Then there's this guy, a thug who steals the paddy wagon, also from the first movie, Dr. Negative, Squidward's villain counterpart from the episode Mermaid Pants, really good episode by the way. There's also Madame Hagfish, the Earworm, Robot Mantis, Nosferatu, Gordon the Viking, Dorsal Dan, and my favorites, the Strangler from the episode Tattletale Strangler, and Doodle Bob from the episode FrankenDoodle. That is like 12 to 13 references in one scene. Crazy.
Dude, sign in and wait your turn.
Get out of the car, fellas!
Take all your money and put it in the bag.
No, Mr. Bob, I expect you to fry.
I am the Strangler. I'm the Strangler.
What is this?
To be or line?
Now, when we first mentioned this episode, I went over all of its cool references to past episodes, but I did leave one out, and this is due to it not being from a SpongeBob episode, but from a SpongeBob video game, and that's this blue little dude known as Prawn. Prawn made his first appearance in the SpongeBob video game, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. It's really cool to see Prawn make his way over to the actual TV show. I wonder though, does this mean that SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom is now canon? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm curious.
Did someone call? Oh, I thought maybe I was looking at superheroes. But now I see it's just a couple of pieces of gnarled driftwood.
What did Prawn do?
The worst thing you can imagine. He put all of Mermaid Man's white clothes in the washer with a red sock.
What is that yellow thing? Some kind of mold?
I'm not mold, I'm a sponge. There's a cellular difference.
In Chatterbox Gary, SpongeBob acquires a pet translation collar that finally lets his beloved snail Gary speak his mind. Imagine getting one of these for your dog or for your cat or for your hamster. It'd be pretty cool.
Hello there, Papa Bob.
Now, we're gonna get into the Easter eggs. I know that's what you clicked on this video for, but I gotta give you guys the context. That way they make sense. SpongeBob excitedly shows off Gary's new voice to his friends, but when they visit Squidward's house, the real fun begins. Gary surprises Squidward by complimenting his interior decor, revealing that he's actually a really classy snail, you know? He's got a sophisticated sense of design, as Squidward puts it.
Come, Papa Bob. Let's get out of here before this bad taste rubs off on us.
Oh, gee, do you have to?
Don't be sad, Squidward. We'll be back soon.
From here, this is where we get to our first couple of Easter eggs, and they're really, really cool, as this leads to a gallery of in-jokes adorning Squidward's walls. And eagle-eyed fans can definitely spot some of these portraits here and the references that they're referring to. For example, this one right here of handsome Squidward, referencing Squidward's briefly beautified form from the episode The Two Faces of Squidward.
Squidward, you're even more handsome now!
If we keep it moving, in another framed piece, Squidward is shown grappling with a sea bear. And this one is a very specific reference. Like, I really like this one. This one's really cool. It kind of brought back some nostalgia for me, as if we rewind to the episode, the camping episode, where SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward all go camping. There's this scene where Squidward refuses to heed SpongeBob and Patrick's anti-sea bear precautions. And yeah, this happens.
No, like that.
Here's a side-by-side, and yeah, this is a really cool callback. If we head back to Squidward's gallery, there's even this painting of a very specific sculpture. It's right here, I'm circling it, and it's a reference to Squidward's sculpture from the episode Are You Happy Now? Again, here's a side-by-side, and yeah, this one's also really cool. And there's more, so let's keep it going. For example, this image right here references the episode Not Normal, specifically this scene, or how about this one? This one references the episode Gone. Here's a side-by-side with the episode Gone and the picture or the portrait, and as you can see, this is a reference, really cool. There's like 3 or 4 more, but I'll let you guys talk about them in the comments. What other portraits here are references to older SpongeBob episodes? To be honest, you shouldn't even be answering this because you should be sleeping, but if you aren't sleeping, it's okay. You can answer this one, but then go like right back to sleep. Alright? Anyways though, the Easter eggs continue when Gary snoops in Squidward's closet. And guys, this is a big one, especially if you're an old school SpongeBob fan like me. I've been watching this show since I was a little kid, even during the Steven Hillenburg era, and this Easter egg really hit me in the heart. Who remembers the episode Band Geeks? In this one, Squidward's arch rival Squilliam shows up, and things get very competitive between Squidward and Squilliam, with it basically leading to Squidward having to form a band and perform at the Bubble Bowl. Well, take a look at this scene where Gary snoops through Squidward's closet.
Oh, tacky.
Hold on now.
You may have missed it, but look. Hanging inside is Squidward's marching band uniform from that episode, Band Geeks, complete with everything. Like, here's a side-by-side, and this is a very clear reference. It's a blink and you'll miss it tribute to Squidward's triumphant Bubble Bowl performance, and it's pretty awesome. Altogether, Chatterbox Gary cleverly weaves these references into the scene, implying that Squidward has kept memories of his many adventures, from the good to the bad, and even the handsome. But let's keep it moving and head over to another episode.